God here. And it's football season. And it's like 100 degrees outside. Sorry about that. Welcome to Season 3 of Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 6 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California. And I don't know about you, Brad, but I happened to be at the dollar store the other day. and I was like, hey, I wonder if they have one of those NFL head coaches analytics card that tells you, when to go for it on 2, when to go for 2, when to kick the extra point. It turns out they had one. And I'm pretty sure that Brandon Staley and Josh McDaniels both shop at the dollar store.
Yeah, it's man, this thing it's becoming a weekly deal for a couple of these guys, right? I mean, Staley, fortunately, he got a great reprieve because the young kicker for the Browns missed the field goal. Otherwise, I'm telling you, he might have gotten fired. You don't know. I mean, really, how many times have we seen it from the kid? He's just not getting it done. And then Josh McDaniel again. I don't know. I received a long litany of texts from you after that one. I mean, it was brutal. I'm sorry. Analytics is just not working in football. It's just not. And it's even confusing, like Aikman and the guys announcing, and they're talking about analytics, and they're getting confused on what the coaches are going to do. And so I don't know. It's puzzling to me every weekend I watch it. You always see some guy lining up to go for it in his own end.
Yeah.
In a unconventional situation, in a really a bad situation, and they keep doing it. And they keep getting burned by it, but none of them have gotten fired because of it yet, Dave. So I guess that's the key, right?
I just like that. Okay, so Josh McDaniels decides to go for it on 4th and 1, sort of earlier in the game at his own 40, and they throw the long touchdown pass to Devontae Adams. Okay, that I'm cool with. The game's still young. It's early, Brad, in the game. I'm okay with that. But when you're on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs and you have the chance to just simply tie the game up with, by the way, 4.5 minutes in a Kansas City Chiefs game is eternity. It's different if you were playing maybe the Chicago Bears or the Washington Commanders, which is tonight's Thursday night football game, where hopefully they'll do something a little bit better than a baseball score than we had last week, which is another whole story, which was absolutely horrific. Worst football game, Brad texted me last Thursday night. But to not go for of course the players want to go for the win, but it is like if your kid is doing something and you notice your kid's doing something wrong, you try to steer them back, Brad. You try to set them up in the right direction, and then you try to make sure they don't make the same mistake again. And these head coaches, especially Brandon Staley, just continue to make mistake after mistake. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and if it had been Patrick Mahomes and them going for it, they would have gotten it, right? I mean, but it is Derek Carr, and he's kind of like Cousins or one of these other guys that never seems to quite come up with the big play at the big time. I mean, and so you got to know your personnel and tie the game up and live to fight another day.
I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but the Vikings actually did that play right with Kirk Cousins last week, where Kirk Cousins actually takes a step back before he goes forward, which gives his offensive lineman a chance to get one of his tackles to get behind him and actually push him forward in this new trend that we're seeing in the NFL, that sort of rugby push. And if they had done that, they would have scored on that 2-point conversion. So first of all, not only do I disagree with them going for it, but then I disagree with the way they attempted to execute it. And we're sitting here watching these games, and Brad, we're both right. I mean, Josh McDaniels was just flat out wrong on that one. And I'm starting to fall into this trap now where I have to admit that Brad Hoyseth might have been right about Josh McDaniels.
Hey, you know what? I had a big week last week. Yeah. 8-2. That doesn't happen maybe you get one of those weeks every year or two. I mean, you just don't get those very often.
Yeah.
And so I've had an unbelievable start to the season. So let's jump into this week's picks. The first one I got on my board is kind of an interesting game. Suddenly, it wouldn't have been interesting 12 months ago. It's the Jets at the Packers, and the Packers are a 7.5-point favorite, Dave. And I don't know. I've watched almost every Packers game, and they don't look like a very good football team to me. They just don't. And I'm very concerned about that offense over there. You can hear my dogs barking in the background.
They are very concerned as well.
Yeah. I brought up the Packers. They started barking.
They're like, can we get a piece of Aaron Rodgers?
Exactly. And so the Packers are 7.5-point favorite. The young wide receivers don't look particularly good. Their defense is okay, but I think this is more about the Jets than it is about the Packers. The Jets are a pretty fun and exciting young team to watch. They got a good young running back. Their quarterback is exciting to watch. They've got 2 or 3 young wide receivers. And the ex-San Francisco coach, got them playing pretty well. So the Packers 7.5-point favorites. I thought that was a little bit thick for me. I took the Jets. And I think the comment I wrote on our score sheet was JETS. Jets, baby.
So those public educations are paying off. Brad spelling Jets correctly for you all. I as much as I wanted to go against Brad on his highly correct spelling of the Jets, and I can't. This just pains me. This is probably going to be a game I regret. But I agree. I mean, and that's a lot of points to be giving up. I mean, I think maybe the Packers win this game, but I really like what they're doing with their young rookie running back, Breece Hall. I mean, I regret not picking him up in fantasy football when I had the chance. So I'm not sold on Zach Wilson by any stretch of the imagination. This to me is more about the Packers being bad and the Jets just improving a ton of talent on that defensive side of the ball. And the Packers, for some reason, haven't realized yet that Devontae Adams is no longer on the team, because if they did, they would be running Aaron Jones 25 times a game. And that running back by committee thing isn't working in the first half of the game. I said this, I think, last week, which is do it in the second half by committee, but at least give Aaron Jones a chance to make a difference, because I think he's a top 10 running back in the National Football League, even higher than that potentially. Why not use him? It just makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been touting his horn for a long time. I think Aaron Jones is an elite back. He's a special receiver out of the backfield. He gives it 100%. Seems to be a tremendous team guy. Rodgers likes him. I've never been a big fan of a committee back by committee thing. But to me, this is not the same Jets team we saw 12 months ago. They're actually kind of fun to watch, and I believe that coaching staff has changed things around. I just think they're going to be a tough team to beat. I'm with you. I think the Packers could win the game, but I don't think it's going to be, 7.5 says borderline blowout, right? I mean, you're thinking, okay, it's more than a touchdown, right? I just don't feel that way. I don't see the Packers as a team right now that's playing great football, and the Jets, I think they have some enthusiasm there and a lot of momentum on their side.
Yep. Well, moving on. Speaking of a team that's not playing good football at all, the Denver Broncos, who were on the wrong side of that baseball game last Thursday night, are at the Los Angeles Chargers. What does this say about the Chargers that they're only favored by 5 in this game? I mean, I know we're going to talk about the Colts a little bit later, but the Colts are actually favored at home against the Jaguars. How is that even possible? And you know, it just makes no sense. So I look at this game, and as much as we talk about Brandon Staley, this is a game that, despite their head coach, the Chargers should be able to easily win. It's like they rediscovered Austin Eckler was on the roster last week and realized he could actually do both things, run the ball up the middle and then catch passes from Herbert. They are absolutely missing Keenan Allen, who had the best tweet of the week last week, Brad. He threw out a WTF, what are we doing in this game when Staley, who is up, decides to go for it on 4th down on his own 40. Just Brad, how like literally, if I owned the Los Angeles Chargers, I always talk about this a lot, like how much fun it would be to have a head coach fired at halftime. Would be even more fun is to actually have somebody yanked off of the sidelines after a terrible call. Like the owner comes down, just talks to the guy and cans him on the spot. It's just unexcusable. It's just absolutely unexcusable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been on this guy for almost 12 months now. I don't think much of him as a coach.
I supported him. I've been supporting Brandon Staley, and I can't do it anymore, Hoysef.
You know what though, Dave? I think a little bit of not to bail him out at all, but I don't know how the quarterback tries to make that throw on 4th down. The guy's covered like a book. Oh, yeah. At some point, you just got to tuck it and try to get it on your own and run for it. And it's another case of one of these guys, strong-arm young kids at quarterback, thinking they can throw it through bodies, and they just can't. And it was a bad call, number one, but it was also bad execution and a bad decision on the part of Herbert. So I think the Chargers, I think Keenan Allen plays this weekend. He's been practicing, running on the sidelines. He hasn't been there since week 1, and trust me, I know that because I got him on my fantasy team along with Harrison Butker, who hasn't played since week 1. Needless to say, you can hear some of the bitterness in my voice about my fantasy team. But I'm with you. I think the Chargers win this thing. 5, I wasn't real comfortable with. The line seems pretty, I would say that's pretty accurate, but I'm going to take the Chargers along with you.
Hey, best thing I can say about the Denver Broncos this year is that they share the orange of the Baltimore Orioles, as it is one of my all-time favorite logos right there.
That's why it's got it on. Dave, I'm wearing this hat for 2. First of all, I got my Gopher sweatshirt on because the Gophers, if they get Ibrahim back this weekend, are going to roll the Illini. Mark my words on that. But the Gophers have the problem at quarterback that the Vikings have. They're the same guy. You could just, switch the guys from Cousins to whoever this guy. I think this quarterback's been there so long for the Gophers. I think Lou Holtz originally recruited him. That's how long this guy's been around.
I think he has. He's one of those. He's one of those lifelong students. The NCAA is just unbelievable now. It's like he's a 6th-year senior. Seventh year grad student. Let's just say what it is. He's He's a minor league football player playing in college.
I think Kent Kitzman was playing fullback for him when he started with the Gophers, and that was I don't know. Cal Stahl might have been the coach. That's how long he's been there.
Hey, since you're wearing the Oriole hat, I just have to say Doug DeCince.
The reason I'm wearing that, the playoffs started this week, and they've been kind of an exciting start. I haven't really watched a ton of it, but the Orioles are nowhere near the playoffs. but I'm with you. I always thought it was one of the coolest logos of all time. It's also the city of Baltimore, the home of one of my favorite television shows of all time, The Wire, which took place in West Baltimore. So. Love this hat. I always did wear it every time. Every time I wear it, though, people go, "What are you doing wearing an Orioles hat?" And I'm like, I don't know. I always thought it was cool,
All right, Brad, take us to the next game.
What do I got? Okay, my next game. I'm going to skip over one. I'm going to go to the Bengals at the Saints, which has an over/under of 44.
Wait, real quick. Speaking of great TV shows, WKRP in Cincinnati.
Ah,
there you go.
Les Nessman, right?
That's right. Good old Les Nessman.
And wasn't there a Johnny on that show or something? I don't know.
Yeah, those shows all had Johnnies.
All right. So the Bengals are at the Saints. It's an over/under of 44, and the Saints are still a mess. I mean, look, I know they got to win. They got to win last week, I think. The Bengals kind of seem to be kind of fine, and I know I keep saying this, that they kind of seem like they're breaking out of things. I just see this as a lot more of a defensive struggle than this. I could see the Bengals winning this thing, I don't know, 21 to 13 or something. You know how I feel about this whole Taysom Hill thing. I think it's a joke. I don't think lightning strikes twice for the Saints with Taysom Hill. And I think the Bengals rally the defense this weekend, and they shut down that Saints offense like everybody should be doing. And I'm taking the under at 44.
Taysom Hill scored like three touchdowns last week. One of them was like a 56-yard, quarterback around the just unacceptable. It was just absolutely unacceptable defense. The Bengals defense is better than that. They'll shut down Taysom Hill significantly in this one. There's something just not quite right with that Bengal offense yet, but I feel like it's sort of coming around. I could see the Bengals winning this game like 27-10, maybe 27-13. So I'm going to go with the under. I have very little faith, as you know, in Dennis Allen anyways. So to actually go into a game like this and say that I think Dennis Allen's team's going to like definitely score 20 points. I'm just not there right now. So I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, the quarterback's going to reconnect with Chase, the wide receiver. They're off to a very slow start, it seems like. I remember just how they were basically unstoppable last year at the end of the year. They just, I don't know if defensive coordinators made an adjustment on that or what, but
yeah,
they just don't seem to be connecting so far this year. At some point, they break out of it. The Saints are generally speaking a good elixir for an offense. So I think the Bengals. I'm with you. I think the Bengals win comfortably.
It's a league of trends and it's a league of copycats, just like everything else in life. Pepsi's not that different than Coca-Cola, Brad. So everybody's playing this cover 2 defense now, and trying to get the ball and stretch the field deep is what Cincinnati did well last year, and that's been taken away from them completely at this point. So they'll get it around. But all right, I'm glad we're in Fred Durst agreeance on that one. That's my first Fred Durst of the year. All right, 49ers at the Falcons. The Falcons, one of my favorite teams this year. I know they're missing some key former Minnesota Viking ingredients are still out.
Did you just say the Falcons are one of your favorite teams?
I love their head coach because he doesn't really have a lot to work with, and they got completely ripped off in the Tom Brady game last week. Best thing I saw all week, Brad, was these two Atlanta Falcons fans got together and they shot a short little TikTok. And my sister sends this to me. And they show, they pretend one of them's Tom Brady getting tackled. And the guy actually slowly lays him down on the ground and puts a pillow down so Tom's head can lie on the pillow. And he gently drops him down to the ground. And then he covers him up with a blanket. And just fantastic TikTok video by two anonymous Atlanta Falcons fans. Just terrible call in that game that slowed the momentum of a Falcons team that almost handed Tom Brady his third loss in a row last week. In this particular game, we're playing the over-under. I've got the over at 43.5. The San Francisco 49ers are going to go into Atlanta and score at least 24 points. I believe this is a overplay for a wide variety of reasons. The 49er running game is really sort of back on track. And they're getting a little bit more healthy. On the flip side of the fence, they lost two key players on the defensive side of the ball. So now it's a question of depth. And how deep is that 49er defense? I think Atlanta's got a really good chance of keeping this game really close. That's why I'm going with the over in it. I almost said Atlanta was going to win, but I pulled back.
Good choice. Al Bumbry, one of my favorite players. Al Bumbry. I don't know if you remember Al Bumbry, the little center fielder, I believe, for the Orioles. No, I'm gonna go the other direction on you here. I think Jimmy G has a bad knack of keeping games closer than they should be. I don't think all is well. I think both these teams are pretty good defensively. I really do. And going on the road, scoring a ton of points, I don't see it for the Niners. And so I just thought that this over-under 43.5 was a good one. I probably wouldn't have picked this game if I had my druthers, but I'm going to go the under and just play devil's advocate on you there for the Niners versus the Falcons.
Yeah. Well, like last week, you lost a couple games.
that was it, by the way, a couple games.
Just a couple games. I was killing myself on the Pittsburgh game. I don't know, Brad. You got to stop me. You gotta protect me from myself. You can't. As my friend, you can't allow me to make that sort of mistake. Yeah. Look, as I said, the Bosa's, both the Bosas and both of the Watts are banged up. Both of those.
What else is new?
Yeah, both of those families are always hurt. So I don't know. Losing Samuel in the defensive backfield for the 49ers is a big hit there. So we'll have to see. But I like the over nonetheless.
All right. Well, I'm going to go to my third game here, which is the Cowboys at the Eagles, Dave. There's some interesting things going on this week. First of all, Dak Prescott is practicing, and the Cowboys have already come out and said he's not going to start, which I find a little bit puzzling.
And Brad, I got to interrupt you. Not only did they show him practicing yesterday, they showed him throwing the ball with his left hand.
Right.
What the
That's
hell?
a little troublesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was a little confusing to me. But anyways, I'm playing the over-under in this game, which is at 42. I thought it was really low. I think the Eagles are going to be successful running the ball against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are good when they can line up and rush the passer. But the Eagles they got the best offensive line in football, maybe, and the best running game in football. And the Cowboys really haven't been tested by a good running game yet. I think that's going to happen this weekend. I think it's actually a higher scoring game than people think. I'm going to go the over at 42. I think the Eagles themselves score at least 30 in that game, and the Cowboys, score 14 or 17 points. I think it's an Eagle win because I think the Cowboys are gonna miss not having Dak Prescott this week. But I'm going to go the over at 42.
All right. So as you know, Brad, I have some extra insight into the Cowboy organization this year. And on a personal note, happy 80th birthday to Jerry Jones. We're recording this on Thursday, a couple hours before Thursday night's football game. So, hopefully this goes live on Jerry's actual birthday, which is today. I look at this game and the running game is going to have to figure out how to gain more than 5 yards a carry. I'm assuming that the Philadelphia Eagle defense, which has one of the best secondaries in the NFL right now, is going to cheat and try to force, if you will, the Cowboys to pass the ball versus running the ball. So they're probably just going to stack the box pretty deep. But I really like the way the Cowboy offense has been sort of solving and dealing with these problems over the last couple of weeks. And it's Cooper Rush, like, you don't want to get into a game where Cooper Rush actually really has to win the game for you. Like, not just on one drive, but like has to throw the ball all the time. So I would encourage the Dallas Cowboys to stick with the run, supplement it with some screen passes, especially during that first half when it's going to be you just watch this game. It's going to be really obvious what that Philadelphia Eagle defense is going to try to do. On the flip side of the ball, the Dallas Cowboys haven't dealt with a Jalen Hurts style quarterback so far. So I looked at this and this is I'd feel better about this over or under if it was a little lower. But I'm still going to agree with you and go with the over in it.
Dave, there's two puzzling things about this game. First of all, that line started at 51, and it has dropped 9 points.
It didn't make any money at 51, which is probably what was.
And it started at 51, the over/under, which means a ton of people have put money on the under.
Yeah.
And once it got to a certain point where it got down to the low 40s, I was like, oh, that's it. I got to go the other direction now because, to me, it is a higher scoring game than 42. Let's not forget Cooper Rush has won 4 straight games, Dave. And so that's why what I was trying to get at first is Dak Prescott not healthy, or are they just saying, you know what, we got a guy that's won 4 straight games?
Well, I think they like the balance that's been developed. It's almost like 60% running, 40% passing now. And I think that's why they've been successful. And they've got this great defense. So I think it's, defense plays really strong, really well, doesn't allow a lot of points. And then you control the clock with a running game. And, Ezekiel Elliott and more importantly, Pollard, some good running schemes for both of them. And when you tell the offensive line, most of what we're going to do is run, then they're able to focus more on their run blocking versus their pass protection. I mean, your Cooper Rush argument is he dropped back to pass 16 times, compare that to Tom Brady's 49 the week before. This is why I really like. I'm not going to say
Dave.
Mike McCarthy.
They call that addition by subtraction, Dave. Addition by subtraction.
Addition by subtraction is really why I like what Kellen Moore is doing, and of course I like what Dan Quinn's doing. Those two coaches are working really well together. I don't know if Mike McCarthy has enough time in between all of his pedicures and his alleged watching video in a conference room stuff, but the strategy's been really good with this Cowboy team so far this year. I think the Cowboys are going to surprise people and win this game. Actually,
we could have a little side bet on that. I think the Eagles are going to blow them out. I think reality is going to hit the Cowboys here really quickly.
Go ahead, Brad. Say happy birthday to Jerry.
No. You'll never hear me say that. I just think that the Eagles they're a good young football team. The Cowboys have kind of been riding the hot head. They played a fairly soft schedule, Dave, and now they get a legitimate contender. And I think the Eagles blow them out. I think it's going to be 30-plus points for the Eagles, and I think the Cowboys are in the teens at the end of the game.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is back this week. Is he, Brad?
No, he's got one more week, or he's out. He's out 6 weeks.
Okay. So Cardinals on the road against the 12th man of the Seattle Seahawks are favored by 2.5 points. I don't even know what to say anymore about Cliff Kingsbury. Another guy I've tried to defend a little bit. I haven't really tried to defend Kyler Murray too much. It's just been too much fun, poking fun at his contract. And there's a reason they put that clause in that contract. We saw it yet again, on the field. Not only does he not know exactly what the rules are for sliding and getting a first down at the end of the game, he then follows that up to spike the ball on third down, leaving them a fourth down to kick a field goal with a replacement kicker, essentially, that was having trouble kicking the ball 40 yards in pregame warmups. It's like, how does this quarterback, a leader of the team, not know all of this sort of going in? And then on top of it, who's the guy in his ear yelling at him to spike the ball? Like, so not only is Kyler not doing the right thing, but there's obviously people on the coaching staff not doing the right thing with the Arizona Cardinals as well. Look, this is my Geno Smith, Pete Carroll revenge game over what happened to him last week. I've got the Seahawks winning by way more than 2.5 in this one. I'm going with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't know why you picked this. This game means nothing to me. I don't think it means anything to outside of Seattle and Phoenix. Really, these are two teams that
I felt like this was an easy one to actually get right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like either of these teams are playoff bound. And whenever I see that, I think it's a little bit, you never know what you're going to get. And I think with Rashad Penny getting hurt last week for the Seahawks, that's a little bit of a red flag for me. But on the road, I don't see any reason why the Cardinals should be a 2.5 point favorite at Seattle. Pete Carroll has kind of got his team overperforming, I think, this year. I don't think much of them as a roster, but at home, that loud crowd, I'll take the 2.5 points in the Seahawks.
Yeah, it is. Penny's out for the season, and that's I feel bad for the kid because he's dealt with a lot of those injuries. They've got a couple other young running backs that were planning on playing a lot this year as well. So you're just sort of and they're not scrubs either. So you were just like sort of they were just sort of waiting to come into it. Look, I just I like what Pete Carroll's done. I agree. He's getting his team to overachieve, and that's what coaches are supposed to do. So, big fan of Pete Carroll right now.
All right, my next one, we're going to go in the direction of the Panthers at the Rams. And the Rams are a 10-point favorite. Dave, do we have the ability to roll in film? Because last week I asked you who's going to be the first coach that's going to get fired. And, man, it took you a quarter of a second to put out the name of the now ex-Carolina Panthers head coach. Do we have that ability?
Yeah. Okay. We'll go ahead and just notice I would be winning on Jeopardy because I buzzed in so quick on the answer. Roll the tape.
Who's going to be the first coach fired this year, Dave?
Matt Rule.
Man, you were quick on that.
Matt Rule's gone. I feel bad, but because I want Matt Rule to do well, and it's not fair to Matt Rule when you look in your quarterback room and your choices are.
You were quick. That was. I got to tell you, I just threw it out there. I didn't know you were going to have that quick of an answer, but you must be on the Matt Rule watch.
I am. I'm watching at halftime as always.
All right. So Dave was, first of all, we had some really sage comments last week. That was one I've never seen. Dave. I actually started laughing because you answered that question so quickly. And I couldn't believe it. I think I texted you as soon as I saw it go across the ticker. Matt Rule fired as coach of the Carolina Panthers. I had to laugh about it. I feel bad for the guy, but I mean, Dave just nailed that one last week. But look, the Rams are a 10-point favorite at home. They're a mess. Both these teams are a mess right now. But I got to believe the coach getting fired 5 games into the season or whatever it is has got to be the worst situation of the two. The Rams are at home, and I think it's panic time if you're a Rams fan. They have to figure something out. They got to figure it out quickly. I don't think Christian McCaffrey alone could beat them. I think the Rams get on track this week. I don't think they're on track. I don't think that they look good, but I think they'll get on track because the Panthers are just so bad right now. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to give the 10.
Yeah, 10's a lot in this, and as much as I'd like to get behind Christian McCaffrey, he's always a hamstring play away. So I, and there's the fire sale rumors starting now. McCaffrey's going to be gone, Moore's going to be gone, a couple of guys on the defense are going to get traded. And I just Sean, the Rams' problem is that they've gone away from the concept that we've sort of talked a lot about with teams that have good defenses and are struggling offensively. They're always able to go to the run, and this Rams team is unable to run the ball, and it has just caused all sorts of issues, especially when they're playing really good teams. So against a weaker defense in Carolina, which 24 months ago looked really good, by the way. But doesn't look so good today. And they just didn't seem like they were playing with any heart. They had tuned out Matt Rule, completely. I don't even know who's starting for the Panthers. Baker's out. I made a joke yesterday on a different podcast that I thought Baker and Carson Wentz we're going to have an opportunity in the coming months to go open up their very own branch of a progressive insurance agency. Because Baker could be completely out of the NFL next week if he insists on wanting to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, because he just isn't. Brad, maybe Sam Darnold is better than Baker Mayfield. Like, that's not saying anything, but maybe.
No, I think Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I would have said that a year ago. I don't think Sam Darnold's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think he's a better player than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield hasn't done anything since the day he walked into the league.
I feel bad for Sam Darnold because I think he's got a lot of the right skills. But the coaching matters with a player like Sam Darnold, and he didn't get it. His first couple of years with the person I don't want to mention. It's like in Harry Potter, the person you don't mention, Matt Gaze. Hopefully some new regime will come in and fix and can try to fix Sam Darnold, at least turn him into a decent backup quarterback. But yeah, like the Rams have to figure this out. They should win this game. I'd feel a lot more confident if they knew how to run, but I'm going to go ahead and agree that they're going to win by at least 10. Less so about the Rams, more about the Panthers just being totally dysfunctional.
Yeah, the Rams have got to they've got to get back to dispersing the ball around a little bit. They get into two funks where they try to run it too much and they don't run it well.
Yeah.
And then they just focus solely on Cooper Kupp. And it's a better football team when they get Higbee involved and some of the second and third wide receivers. The problem with them is that since Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt last year at the end of the year, they haven't really found that number 2 or 3 guy. Robert Woods is gone. That was a big loss for them. And so they got to find a number 2 or 3 guy at wide receiver before they're going to become a factor. And a lot of that, I think, is going to be on Stafford. The problem is he's just not getting any time to throw the ball. The offensive line is not very good in Los Angeles.
And to be totally fair to the Rams organization, they wanted to win a Super Bowl. They went all in on it. But we see this with teams every year where they go all in and it backfires. In their particular case, they went all in on it. And now they don't have any draft picks. They barely have any cap room. They couldn't keep all the players, enough of the key players that they wanted to keep, or had no money to go sign any really good offensive linemen in the offseason. They knew they were digging a ditch for this season last year when they picked up Von Miller and just decided to make that move. All right. So moving on to the line of the week that I just can't believe. This is, Brad, my line of the week is the Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. How in God's name are the Buffalo Bills favored in Kansas City? It'd be one thing if it was in Buffalo, but in Kansas City against the Kansas City Chiefs by 2.5. I just don't understand how that's even possible. Now, last week we were talking Gabe Davis and Brad, you had said something sort of interesting about Gabe Davis. Let's go and roll the Hoysef Gabe Davis tape.
But Gabe Davis is going to play, and I think that makes him a little more dangerous and a little more quick strike.
Brad, so I've got to know, is Gabe Davis, did he make you some money last week? Because you obviously knew something was going to happen positively with Gabe Davis last week.
Dave, every once in a while you throw enough stuff on the wall and eventually something will stick. I mean, I got it right. And Gabe Davis is a dangerous player, but it didn't just happen overnight. Remember the run he went on in the playoffs?
Oh, yeah.
That's a special connection right there. And, you combine that with Stephon Diggs and then, of course, I can't say enough about Josh Allen, how great he is and how great that defense is. It's a fun This is the best game. This is the game of the year so far, right? I mean, the Bills and the Chiefs, that's the one that everybody wants to watch. Right now the Bills are kind of like the darlings of the league. And, you know, Mahomes, when he's right, and he appears to be right now, he's just a lot of fun to watch. He makes things happen that just don't make any sense. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. But Gabe Davis, I said he makes that team a little bit more electrifying at times. And what was like a third play from scrimmage, they went 98 yards or something.
Yeah. Brad's texting me, Gabe Davis. Over under on this game is 54. I want to point out that the Bills beat the Steelers last week back into the early 1970s, and the Chiefs, backed into a win against bad coaching decisions by the Las Vegas Raiders and Josh McDaniels. They still played really well in the second half. If anything, we saw really like the difference between this Bills team and this Kansas City Chiefs team is the defense. The Bills defense is significantly better. But this is Patrick Mahomes. This is seven different sort of offensive weapons for Patrick to use. This is two coaches that know each other really well. I look at this and I'm like, no matter what, Buffalo's going to score a lot of points. That's how I'm looking at this game. And I'm like, do I think Kansas City's also going to score a lot of points? And I think the answer is yes. So I'm going with the over.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I think that if the Bills are going to win on the road, their defense is going to have to play well. They are favored by 2.5. I feel like the Bills have, if not the best, one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. I think the Chiefs are actually okay defensively. They had their moments last week against the Raiders. I get it. But this isn't the Raiders. This is the Bills. It's a tough game. These things tend to take a little bit more of a defensive feel to them when you get these big games. Josh Allen, for all the great things I can say about him, he has a tendency to throw a pick or two in a game like this. I'm going with the under. I thought 54 was a pretty big number, and so I'm going to stand by my initial reaction to this, which is take the under in this deal.
Yeah. Okay. So how they have that saying, the fear of missing out, FOMO. I think this Buffalo Bills team is still a little shocked over what happened to their defense last year. I think they have the faux pem, the fear of Patrick Mahomes. I really do. I mean, I think there's something, the Bills Mafia that lives really close to my house that's going to hate this. I think they're fearful of Patrick Mahomes, and I think Andy Reid's such a good head coach. He's going to find a way. I'm not talking about who's going to win this game, just simply score enough points to beat that over under of 54.
Yeah, I just feel like Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't appear like he and Mahomes are really on the same page. Travis Kelce's not going to have another 4-touchdown performance. Good player, but I'm not a big fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as I've said before. I think they've kind of been doing it on the right arm, right shoulder of Patrick Mahomes so far. And I think Mahomes is going to face some pressure this year that he hasn't faced all season long. And I feel like it's a good game. I think it's going to be a close one, but it kind of feels to me like a 27-24 game where it ends up a little bit under that 54.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game for sure. So,
all right, let's move on to my last one, which is our Minnesota Vikings, Dave, are going down to Miami to take on the Dolphins, and the Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite. It started out as the Dolphins as a 3-point favorite, and the line has moved 6.5 points. And there's a few things that kind of keep popping up for the Vikings that have started here in recent weeks. The kicking woes are starting again, Dave. They got a kicker now that's not the kicker he was at the beginning of the season. He's missing field goals. And, this, to me, this just kind of feels like a trap game. The Vikings have had a really soft schedule so far, in my opinion. And now what was supposed to be a tough game, now the Vikings are seeing a third-string quarterback. And so, your original reaction is to say, okay, they should be licking their chops, and this should be an easy win. But nothing ever seems to be quite as it seems, Dave.
Yeah.
And it's a 3.5-point favorite, and I'm going to take the Phins. I know they got a third-string quarterback, but that's still a damn good defense. And, I watched a little bit of that game last week, and he didn't look that bad for a third-string quarterback. They still have Tyreek Hill, who's apparently going to play, and Waddle's going to play. And it feels to me like it's going to end in a field goal at the end of that game. And with the Vikes giving the 3.5, I like that extra hook. I'm going to take the Phins and the 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, the Vikings are 0-1 on the road against teams that wear the color green. So our Eagle game was painful. I'm with you that this feels a little trappy to me, especially with my criticism of the Viking defense. Waddle and Tyreek Hill are definitely, if we play the same style defense we've been playing, they're going to have a field day in the middle of the field. Like, they're going to set up a picnic. They're going to be able to DoorDash, Uber Eats right there from the middle of the field. There's no defenders around at all. So hopefully there are some adjustments made to the game plan with this defense in this game. To me, this is about the defense figuring out how to shut down this Phins team. Look, this Viking team has not been good with adjustments at all so far this season. Yeah, they won last week, but they played really good at the beginning of the game and held on for dear life at the end. I'm it's against the Chicago Bears, Brad, and Justin Fields. They had to come back to win that game. So I'm not totally sold on this regime. This is actually going to be a flip-flop. I'm going to agree with you on the Phins in this one. I hope to be wrong, but I will agree with you.
Wow. The last time I got you to flip-flop, Dave, was a couple of weeks ago, and you paid a price. We both got whacked in that Colts. It was the Colts and the Titans, right?
It's the defense and it's the coaching job on both sides of the ball. I mean, I know we've had like decent game plans at the beginning of games, but we are not making, as if I'm on the coaching staff, the team is not making adjustments at all at halftime that are working. They're making the opposite of adjustments that work at halftime.
Dalvin Cook doesn't look good to me right now. He's a lot slower than he's been in recent years. I don't know if he's injured or what, but
Dalvin looks the same way Dalvin looked last year. He doesn't look the way he looked 3 years ago, but he looks like it's the same Dalvin, and he still almost had 100 yards last week.
The Vikings have played one good team all year, Dave, and that was the Eagles, and they got their asses kicked. Pardon my French, but they. I don't know.
Teams in green, Brad.
Yep. All right. On to your
last game. Now that I've spoiled Brad's day and flip-flopped, maybe I can get Brad to flip-flop on this one. You got how are the Jags not favored in this game, Mr. Hoysef? Jags at Colts. Colts are favored by 2.5. Like, did anybody in Vegas see what happened last week? Did anybody in Vegas see what happened to the Colts just a couple weeks ago last time they played the Jaguars? Has that much changed in the world, Brad, in the last 21 days? to justify this line in any way. Anyways, this is a Jags, an easy Jags victory for me. I'm taking the Jags.
First of all, I'm trying to figure out why you picked this game.
We were running out of games.
There's going to have like 7 people watching it. It couldn't be a more, look, I'm going to go against you. I just feel like both these teams are inconsistent. I know the Jags beat them a couple weeks back. I say the Colts get them back. The Colts have to win. I mean, they're a desperation move. Yeah. First of all, I can't believe they're 2.5-point favorites. That to me is a little puzzling.
Yeah,
and it tells me Vegas knows something. Whenever it's one of those lines that we talk about it every year. You get a line and you go, something's wrong here. Yeah. It should be the other way around. And maybe Vegas knows something. It hasn't moved a lot. So
I mean, the Jags are not as good as everybody thought they were. That's part of it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. It's early, and they're a young team, and young teams make young mistakes. But I just get a sense the Colts kind of have to have something this weekend. If not, the season's over for them. And so I'm going to take the Colts in the 2.5 because I don't have that much faith that the Jags are a good football team.
Yeah. My other option really this week was to have us have a conversation about Mike Tomlin and Kevin Stefanski, and that would have been the other game I almost dropped on this list for you, Brad. I saw this line. I was just entirely puzzled. Yeah, I went back. I looked. I saw the score from the Jaguars last game just a couple weeks ago against the Colts. It didn't take long to remember what we witnessed last week in maybe one of the worst football games I think either of us have ever suffered through. And we've suffered through a lot of football over the years. So I just I don't know what to say about this Colts team. I feel like Doug Peterson's going to get this Jags team back on track, and they're going to win the game. So they'll definitely cover.
It's probably one that I'll regret. Because I really do like Doug Peterson, and how I feel about Matt Ryan. I can't stand him. So I can't believe that I'm actually taking Matt Ryan, but it'll probably give me another reason not to like the guy.
I love that you took Matt Ryan this week. All right. Well, there you go. That's your top 10 games, which we kind of think on some of these are worth spending some money on for week number 6 of your National Football League season. Mr. Hoyseth, any parting words of wisdom?
Well, it'd be, we'd be really missing out if we didn't talk a little bit about baseball. It just goes to show you get hot going at the end of the season, and things can keep going. And the Guardians have played well, and the Padres, pull off big win last night against the Dodgers, and so I'm rooting for the underdogs. No reason to root for the teams that, spend their asses off. They've got huge advantages to the Dodgers and the Yankees. Although I do appreciate both organizations for what they represent. But it's baseball. Kenny Singleton, Dave. How's that? That's another Oriole from the past. Boog Powell.
Eddie Murray.
Brooks Robinson.
Yeah.
Brooks Robinson.
Yeah. Look, on the baseball front, the Padres, they have spent some serious coin, and I happened to be in San Diego when they were spending some of it for a couple nights, and I actually got to Petco and went to a baseball game. This is like one of my favorite ballparks in America. There's an Omni Hotel that connects to the ballpark, Brad. I don't have to sit in ballpark lines. I can just go through the hotel entrance across the Skyway directly into the ballpark. I have always loved Petco Field. Just a great experience in San Diego every time I'm there. So I love the fact that they were like, screw it. We're going to spend a lot of money and try to make a run at this. And I was so happy. Well, I think the Dodgers are going to win this series. I was so happy to see them at least get one win in a best of 5.
Yeah, it's been fun so far, but there's a long ways to go. It's almost like an entire season in that sport. So
yeah. All right. Well, there you go. A little bit of baseball for you. Hoysef and I think, are both saddened by the tanking of the Minnesota Twins this year. It's been a long time since we've seen a baseball team have 2 completely different seasons in a single season, and that's exactly what happened to that Twins organization as a whole.
Yeah, I went to 2 games this year, Dave. 2 Twins games. I went to one. I went up to Minnesota for a week on a little bit family vacation, and I went to a Sunday afternoon game. And the Twins had, I think, 4 guys in their lineup with numbers over 50 on their jersey. And I'm like, what was this, a minor league game? What am I watching, the Cactus League? They were so bad. It was unbelievable. Then I came home, and a couple weeks later, the Dodgers were in town. And so my son you don't often get a chance to see the Twins in Dodger Stadium. Yeah. So I went to that, and again, for like the second time in 2 weeks, got completely humbled because they just got, drummed. And I said, this team ain't. That manager's terrible, Dave. They got to get rid of that
guy. Last note on this, still Blue Heaven on Earth, still one of my favorite stadiums in baseball. One of my kids had a chance to get to Dodger Stadium for the All-Star game, and they made the mistake of sitting in right field, because it just sunburnt out there. But I absolutely love that ballpark. It's still one of my favorite ballparks in America. All right. We got to get out of here. That is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeVaw up in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.